Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everybody, how is everything today? I hope all of you are always happy and healthy. Welcome again with me, Mom Elin. Are you ready to join with me? Well, today we will discuss about passive voice. Passive voice consists of two sentences, active and passive. Before talking more about passive voice, I will inform the basic competence and learning objective. The basic competence is analyzing social functions, text structures, and language feature of passive voice. The learning objective is through discussion, the students are able to identify social functions, text structures, and language features of passive voice responsibly. Well, my class, are you ready to continue? Here is the explanation of active and passive voice. Passive voice or kalimat pasif. In passive voice, there are two topics we are going to learn. The first is when to use passive voice, kapan kita menggunakan kalimat pasif, and how to form passive voice, dan bagaimana caranya membuat kalimat pasif. Depend on the structure and tenses, tergantung dari structure atau tensesnya masing-masing. Well, let's discuss one by one. The first thing we are going to discuss is about when to use passive voice. Kapan kita menggunakan kalimat pasif. But before changing the sentence into passive voice, we need to know the active voice. Tapi sebelum kita merubah suatu kalimat ke dalam pasif, kita harus mengetahui kalimat aktif terlebih dahulu. Well, what is active voice? Active voice is want to say that the subject of a sentence is doing the action. Kalimat aktif digunakan jika kita ingin mengatakan bahwa subjek dalam kalimat tersebut adalah suatu kegiatan atau perbuatan. For example, Mr. Ridwan is cutting down a tree. Mr. Ridwan menebang pohon. Mr. Ridwan is a subject, and then the subject is doing the action. The action is cutting a tree. Mr. Ridwan is active, doing the action, that is cutting down a tree. So, this sentence belongs to active sentence or active. Is it clear? Now, let's change this sentence into passive voice. What is passive voice? Passive voice is used when we want to say that the subject of a sentence is not doing anything, but is allowing something to be done to it by somebody else. Passive digunakan untuk menyatakan bahwa subjek dalam kalimat tersebut tidak melakukan suatu kegiatan atau perbuatan, tetapi dia dikenai pekerjaan oleh somebody. For example, a tree is being cut down by Mr. Ridwan, or a tree is being cut down by him. Pohon itu tebang oleh Mr. Ridwan. A tree is a subject, not doing anything, but allowing Mr. Ridwan to cut it. A tree subject, tidak melakukan suatu kegiatan, tapi dikenai pekerjaan oleh Mr. Ridwan, yaitu ditebang. So, this sentence called by passive voice or passive sentence. Is it clear? Great. Let's continue. Discussing form or characteristic of passive voice. There are 4 points. The first number is In a passive voice sentence, the subject and object flip-flop. The subject in active voice becomes the passive recipient of the action. Dalam kalimat pasif, subjek dan objeknya flip-flop. Maksudnya, subjek dalam kalimat aktif menjadi objek dalam kalimat pasif. Begitu juga dengan objek dalam kalimat aktif menjadi subjek dalam kalimat pasif. Point number 2 is, often passive voice sentences will contain a by phrase indicating who or what perform the action. Dalam kalimat pasif biasanya mengandung kata by yang artinya oleh, yang mengindikasikan siapa atau apa yang melakukan tindakan atau kegiatan. Point number 3 is, passive sentences can be easily transformed into active sentences when the object of the preposition by is moved to the subject position in the sentence. Point number 3 is same with point number 1. The subject and object flip-flop. Subjek dalam kalimat aktif menjadi objek dalam kalimat pasif. Objek dalam kalimat aktif menjadi subjek dalam kalimat pasif. And then, point number 4 is, in passive voice sentence, all verbs are in verb 3 or past participle. Dalam kalimat passive voice, semua verb dalam bentuk verb 3 atau past participle. Well, my class, do you understand? Well, great job. Now let's continue discussing how to form passive voice in some tenses. The first tense is simple present tense. In simple present tense, the pattern for active voice is using verb 1. For example, Mrs. Rita bakes cakes. Mrs. Rita as the subject, and then the subject is doing the action, bakes. And then the object here is cakes. And then the pattern for passive voice in simple present tense is be plus verb 3 plus by plus agent. Agents means pelaku, it could be someone or something. So the passive sentence from Mrs. Rita bakes cakes is, cakes are baked by her. Subject in active becomes object in passive. Object in active becomes subject in passive. Is it clear, my class? And there is a note. The usage of are is changed according to the number of the subject of the sentence. Di sini ada catatan penggunaan to be, am, is, are, change, berubah tergantung dari jumlah subjek dalam kalimat tersebut. Apakah singular atau plural? Well, my students, that is the explanation of simple present tense. Tense number 2 is simple present continuous tense. The pattern for active sentence is be plus verb ing. For example, Chandra is building a sand castle. And then the pattern for passive voice is be plus being plus verb 3 plus by plus agent. And then the passive from Chandra is building a sand castle is, a sand castle is being built by him. The subject in active becomes object in passive. the object in active becomes subject in passive. Is for be, at being, at verb 3, build, and by. Agent here, him is the agent. And then there is a note, same with simple present tense. The usage of am, is, are is changed according to the number of the subject of the sentence. Penggunaan to be disesuaikan dengan subjek dari tersebut, apakah singular atau plural. Well, clear enough about simple present continuous tense? Good job. Let's continue discussing the third tense. The third tense is present perfect tense. The active pattern for present perfect tense is have or has plus verb 3. For example, he has drawn a picture. And then the pattern of passive voice for present perfect tense is have or has plus been plus verb 3 plus by plus agent. The passive sentence for he has drawn a picture is a picture has been drawn by him. Subject in active becomes object in passive. Object in active becomes subject in passive. And has been drawn here depend on the pattern of passive for present continuous tense. Has plus been plus verb 3. And then the note for present perfect tense is have is used for subject I, you, they, we, and has is used for subject he, she, it. Well, my beloved students, do you understand? Well done. Let's continue discussing the fourth tense. Fourth tense is simple past tense. Active sentence for simple past tense is using verb to. For example, she told me a secret. And then the pattern for passive of simple past tense is to be past plus verb 3 plus by plus agent. So the passive from she told me a secret is a secret was told to me by her. Subject in active becomes object in passive. Object in active becomes subject in passive. And was told belongs to the pattern of passive simple past tense. Was as to be past and then told as verb 3. The note for simple past tense is using to be past was or were. Was is used for subject I, he, she, it, and then were is used for subject you, they, we. Well, my class, clear enough? Okay, thank you so much. Let's continue by discussing next tense. Tense number 6 is past perfect tense. The pattern for past perfect tense for active sentence is had plus verb 3. For example, she had eaten several cookies. And then the pattern for passive of past perfect tense is had plus been plus verb 3 plus by plus agent. So the passive sentence of she had eaten several cookies is several cookies had been eaten by her. Subject in active becomes object in passive. Object in active becomes subject in passive. So far, do you understand? Okay everyone, let's continue discussing the last tense. The last tense is simple future tense. In simple future tense, the pattern for active is will plus verb 1. For example, they will give the beggar some money. And then the pattern of passive for simple future tense is will plus be plus verb 3 plus by plus agent. So the changes from active sentence here to be the passive sentence is the beggar will be given some money by them. The subject in active becomes object in passive. Object in active become subject from passive. Well, my beloved students, that's all about passive voice. I hope you can understand enough and you can apply it in your daily communication. But before closing this meeting, I just want to remind you that before you speak, please think. T for is it true? H for is it helpful? I for is it inspiring? N for is it necessary? And K is for is it kind? Well, my beloved students, thank you so much for all of your kindness and attention. See you again next meeting. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.